Welcome to Unit 5, Lesson 23. Explain how an author uses reasons and evidence to support particular points in a text.
Okay, here is our focus for today. The title is Reasons versus Evidence. Your standard is to be able to explain how an author uses reasons and evidence to support particular points in a text. Here are your two learning goals. Learning goal number 1, to understand the difference between reasons and evidence. The second learning goal for you is to understand how to use reasons and evidence to make points about a topic. So guys, our essential question is, what's the difference between reasons and evidence? And you're going to find that out next. All right, these are just a few of our vocabulary words that you're going to see throughout the lesson today. Word 1 is the word persuade, reasons, points, and the word evidence. So really quickly, let's go back through that, okay? An author, that means the person who is writing whatever you're reading, will try and persuade you about something, okay? They want to persuade you because they have a point that they're trying to make or an idea, okay? Just like in the articles that I read about bike sharing, the authors were trying to persuade me to help me realize that bike sharing programs were a good idea. So their point was that bike sharing programs are great for neighborhoods. The authors then back those points up with a lot of reasons that show why their ideas were valid or why they might be true. Then, aside from them coming up with reasons why, they also provided support in the form of evidence, which are things that can actually be proven, because that just strengthens your point or your argument. It's the same exact thing you guys have to do when you write your papers. Now, really quickly, and I mean really quickly, we're going to look at the quick version of the two different cartoons, okay? The cartoons below take place on a space station in the year 2450. So each child that you see in this picture wants a dog, and so they ask for it. But if you notice in the first picture, the little boy says, "But I want a dog." So he seems to be demanding a dog. But in the second picture, the little girl, if you look at her poster here, it says, "We need a dog." And then she has some things underneath that. All right? If you look at the first bullet point, it says, "Teaches me responsibility." So this is a point that she's making. And then number 1 and 2, if you look underneath, it says, "It must have food and water. It must be walked daily." Those are things that she lists, or reasons that she lists to help her make her point. That they need a dog because it's something that would be good for her. It would teach her responsibility. So instead of her demanding it as the boy did in the cartoon, she provided a stronger argument because she has reasons why getting a dog would be a good idea. So the question is, which child do you think is more likely to convince his or her parents that a dog is a good idea? Hopefully you said the girl, because demanding something, especially with your parents, is not going to get you much of anywhere. But the way she laid out her argument, she is more likely to convince her parents that she should have a dog. Okay, let's move on. Now, we're going to fill in the chart with the information so we can kind of organize our thoughts. First column says, what does the child think? Okay, that means what point was the child trying to make? Or her point was that they need a dog. That's her idea. The heading on the second column here says, why does the child think this way? What's her reason for thinking that they need a dog? Her reason is because she's saying a dog would teach her responsibility. So what details does she use to support that? So above the third column, it says, how do details support the child's thinking? In other words, what is the evidence? What are those things that can be proven to show that they actually need a dog, and it was going to teach her responsibility? 2 reasons she listed. She said that she'd have to take care to give the dog food and water every day. That is evidence. That's something that can be proven. If you get a pet, of course, you have to feed it, right? Secondly, she says dogs need exercise, so she would be sure to take it for walks every day. Is that true? Do dogs need exercise? Do they need to move around? Absolutely. So not only does she provide you with a reason, which kind of explains why someone makes a point, why they feel the way they feel, she also backed it up with hard evidence that shows or supports her point that they need a dog, because her point is that it's going to teach her to be a better person. It's going to teach her responsibility. Look at the next one. A dog would help guard our home.
That was listed at the bottom.
That's another reason. Ask yourself, is that true? Do dogs help guard your home or any residence? Look at the evidence. Now, there is no evidence actually given in the cartoon, but she does provide enough evidence about it teaching her responsibility, even though she doesn't have evidence that shows that a dog would help guard their home. I think she's provided enough evidence to possibly convince her parents. So let's keep moving. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're going to read the article together, Should We Explore Space? And then we'll fill in the chart on the next page. All right, title is, Should We Explore Space? Absolutely. Paragraph number 1. Exploring space is one of the most important things the United States can do. But why? For one reason, the work of getting people and machines into space leads to new technologies. Some of these new technologies then become available to everyone and improve their lives. Do you need examples? Then try these. Because of the space program of the 1960s and 1970s, we have digital clocks, laser surgery, and instant foods. And these new technologies have broader effects on society. They help create new businesses, which then make new jobs, a richer population, and a stronger economy. But there is a second and more important reason for exploring space, and it has nothing to do with money. It's called the need to discover. Human beings are naturally curious. We want to know what's out there. If it's at the top of a mountain or across a river or at the bottom of the sea, we want to see it and touch it. Humans are also competitive. We want to be both the first and the best at what we do. When the Soviet Union put the first human in space in 1961, Americans didn't just sit and watch. The United States surged ahead with a space program, and 8 years later, put the first person on the moon. Now, let's look what we have here. The very first sentence says, exploring space is one of the most important things the United States can do. Now, this is the author's point that he's trying to make about space exploration. It's not evidence, not anything that can be proven. It's just his idea. So let's look at some of the reasons why he has this idea. If you look in that same paragraph, it says, for one reason, and here the underlined part says, the work of getting people and machines into space leads to new technologies. This is one reason why. Let's look further down in paragraphs 2 and 3. In paragraph 2, it says, it's called the need to discover. Human beings are naturally curious. Let's move to paragraph number 3. Another reason here. Humans are also competitive. We want to be both the first and the best at what we do. Now, let's go to our chart. Here, the first column says, what does the author think? Think back to that first sentence. The author's point, or what he thinks, is that the United States should explore outer space. The second column says, why does the author think this way? What's a reason that he lists. Let's look at the first reason. The work needed to get people and machines into space leads to new technologies. So this is why the author feels that the United States should explore outer space. Now, let's look at some evidence, some things that can be proven to support the author's point. It says, how do details support the author's thinking? So our evidence here is that new technologies such as laser surgery become available to everyone and improve their lives. That, my friends, is something that can be proven. So it's considered evidence. The second piece of evidence says new technologies create new businesses, which often result in more jobs and a stronger economy. That can also be proven, guys. When we talk about new technologies, let's think about computers, right? Because we didn't always have computers around. So having computers created a need for us to have technology workers, people who work in technology to create and handle these computers. So another piece of evidence. Let's look at another reason. The other reason, the author says humans have a need to discover. So this is why the author feels that the United States should explore outer space. Just yet another reason why. Look at the evidence. It states humans want to know more about what is out in space. This too, guys, is something that can be proven because throughout centuries, we have evidence, hard evidence that shows that human beings have been very, very interested in what's in space. Reason number 3. The author says that humans are competitive. So this is another reason why he feels the United States should explore outer space. Let's look at the evidence. It says when the Soviet Union put the first human in space in 1961, the U.S. built its space program, and 8 years later, it put the first person on the moon. This is evidence, guys. You can look in your history books and see that this is proven. This is something that actually did happen. So here's what I wanted you to get out of this lesson, okay? Although this is a reading lesson, you are submitting a paper to me this week. You're submitting your writing. So what I need you to understand is that in your thesis, you had 2 points, which are 2 ideas about whatever your topic was, okay? Now, your 2 ideas should have been based on the author's information. Your articles were about snakes. Remember? Having a snake as a pet. So even if you feel like it is a good idea, that should not be your point because the author provided you with so much information to show you that that was not a good idea. So the 2 points in your thesis should be that having snakes as pets are not a good idea. And you should have listed within your point 2 reasons why. These 2 things, guys, a point and reasons, that's what makes up your thesis statement. You have an idea about your topic, and you include 2 reasons why you feel the way you feel. And again, your feelings should be based on what the author wrote. So if that author gave you a lot of information to show that it's not a good idea to have snakes as a pet, then that's what your thesis should be. Now, when we talk about the evidence, you also need to pay close attention to that because the evidence is really the gust of your paper. In body paragraph number 1, whatever the first reason was in your thesis, you're going to compile evidence to support that first reason. In body paragraph number 2, whatever your second reason was, you're going to compile pieces of evidence to support that second reason. So the whole reason for completing this reading lesson right now and at this point is because I felt it would help you out with your writing. Now, if for any reason you need to go back and view or look at this lesson as you are submitting your essay draft to me, please do so. Happy writing!